Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Lingam. Thank you for watching this video today. I'm using .NET 6 framework. You can use anything you want. Before we do anything, first let us start the application to see how it is. Now for this video, for WPF MVVM, we need two important interfaces to be implemented. One is iNotify property changed and other is iCommand. iCommand is the way how your view will send message or instruction to your view model. And iNotify property change is the way how your view model will send notification or information back to your view. So we need these two implemented. Here I'm going to stick with an open source library from Microsoft, which is Community Toolkit. You can use any toolkit you want. Usually I use Haley MVVM, but in this video I want to try something different, so I'm using Community Toolkit from Microsoft. Now that we have this, let us create a couple of pages, and this pages should be user controls. So user control, it could be any user control, custom control or user control, anything you want. I will create them as page A. Let us give some colors to these pages and add some text so that we know that differentiation. We have 4 pages now. And in the main view model, we need to have some kind of a navigation concept. Usually people will prefer a side navigation bar, or they will prefer a top navigation with different icons. It's totally up to you, or maybe you can even go with a stepper where step 1, 2, 3 you can add a button on the right side and left side, and based upon the click you can change the pages. So this video is about navigating from one page to another page, but how you want to navigate is totally up to you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a top navigation controller, something like this, a menu bar. I will add a small menu bar here with different icons which will stand for page A, B or C, and based upon that we will change the pages. So let us first create a top navigation. We need to have multiple buttons. You can go with adding different image based buttons, image based icons, that will look more nice. But in this video, since we are using only Community Toolkit MVVM, and the feature is the concept is only for navigation, I'm not going to import any third-party libraries to prepare the image buttons. I will directly call a simple button. Okay, so we now have a button with page number associated to it. If we add one more button, it will obviously be overlapping that because we are inside a grid. But if you don't want it to be overlapping, you need to have stack panel. Stack panel. And the stack panel also should not be coming vertically, the orientation should be horizontal. And even in the horizontal stack panel, your whole stack panel should be in the center. Horizontal alignment of the stack panel itself is in the center. and there should be a gap between these items, but you cannot control how the gap should be present within the stack panel. You need to assign them in the button itself. So what I will do, I will create a small style. If you do not assign a name, I'm sorry, you can't have a name, right? When you are adding something here, you need to have a key. If you don't assign a key, then everything will if you assign a key, then you need to specify the key inside each button. If you don't assign a key, then it will be globally applied. But in our case, what we need to apply a key, because in case you are having some button inside your independent controls, those will also be affected. That's why it's better to have key and apply wherever you want the changes to be reflected. Now let's add a margin, and the margin value will be horizontally we need 5 and vertically we don't need anything, so vertical 0, and the style is button S. It's a static resource. So far we have only managed to add some buttons here, but when you click them, nothing will happen. Let's try to do a simple debug, run the application and see what happens. So see, nothing happens now. All that we have is there is one more problem. Since our stack panel is central, horizontally centered, the color is also not there. So I'm going to make a little modification, put this stack panel inside a grid, and assign the color to the grid. And put this stack panel again inside. So in that way, the color is now extended and buttons are here. That's fine. So what we need now is we need the view model. We need to assign the iNotify property change interface. We need to implement the interface here. Let's try using. Inside the component model, we have something called observable object, and if you just right click, press F12 and see, this is implementing notify property change and notify property change in both the interfaces. So now public main MVVM, that's fine. So now that it implements the notify property change, so you could go ahead and see that it has a method called on property change, and it also has a set property. Both are available, same like in Haley. As I said in the beginning that this is about creating this navigation using enums. So we need to assign a page identification, because view is separate and view model is separate. They both should know a common term by which both of them will understand, okay, this is the view and this is the page that I need to change to be there. So page IDs, page ID, and this will be a public or internal, whatever it is, public enum page ID, and let's say A, B, C, D, E, F. I don't need this much. We have only till D, so we have page A, B, C, D. That's it. So when this is applied, we should be able to understand what is the page. And since this is MVVM approach, the page should be changed from the view model, and view should understand and change it. So let's see, page ID, and let's call it as page ID, page ID. So you can go with the set property method, or you can go with the on property change. Whenever you set the value, you need to invoke a method called on property change. So the page ID is here. By default, when the application starts, the page ID should be page id dot a. That's fine. Now this is totally cool, and we need one more thing. We need a way how we can change this page id. So for that we need a method. I will call this method as public void, or maybe internal void, whatever you want. Let's go with private void. So void change page. So now when I change the page, I need to have which page I need to change it to. So new page, and whenever this value is given, page id the equals new page. So I am changing the page. So what happens, there is a method when I give the page id a new argument, then the page id property is changed, and when the property is changed, it will then call the on notify property change method, and this will then invoke the I notify property change inside the observable object. When the view is attached to it, it will be listening to this, and it should be able to update itself. Now we need one more thing, which is the command from through which the view should be telling the view model how to update it. So let's call as I command. I command is present in system.windows.input, and let's call it as command change page. In different third-party libraries, people call it as a delegate command or relay command. In community toolkit, it is called as a relay command. So let's call a new relay command, but the concept is going to be the same. Whether you call it as a relay command or a delegate command, everything will take in an action, and then weigh whether the action there will be another one more method or a function, whether this could be executed or not, that you can implement based upon some other criteria. But here let's keep it simple and say change page. Now this change page is expecting a page id, so relay command should be a generic of page id. So what I'm expecting is, I'm expecting a relay command which should only take in page id and send the page id to me. Now very simple, very simple. Now this is all done. Now we need to attach this view model directly to our view. So go to your view, because currently the view has no idea what is its view model. Again, there are more ways, more than one way to associate a view model with the view. The most simplest approach will be directly going to the constructor and adding it. So this dot data context equals new main VM. So I'm assigning a new one. So which means whenever you restart the window, a new one is assigned. That's cool. So now we have associated the view model with the view, and the next step is we need to add commands to these buttons. So let's call a command, and the command is going to be the same across all the buttons. But let's see something. The command, what is the command? Command change page. So let's go here and binding command change page. Now when I try to bind something, this property should be present inside the data context of this stack panel. So here we are not specifically changing the data context of stack panel, so it will inherit from its parents. Buttons data context inherited from stack panel, and stack panel's data context inherited from grid, and it goes up until window. So button will inherit the data context of the window, and data context of window is new main VM. So what happens, this XAML will try to find whether this command change page I command is present inside the data context of the main window or not, and yes, it is present, so it will take that one. So let's copy this and put them here. Okay, now we have the same command for all these items. In case you want to have a different command where you want to do some validations for page C, you can always do that one. The next thing that we need is, you need to assign some kind of a parameter. Command parameter, we need a static page id. Now this, go ahead, and this is our local. So our page id, where is the namespace? It is present in simple navigation, and I will go here. It is also present in simple navigation. In case you have a page id in a different namespace, you need to bring that namespace here, and then you need to call x static. Just follow it through. X static, because it is a static resource. I'm just saying, instead of assigning a static resource here, just like how we are calling the static resource, I'm going to say that I have a static resource, but which is coming from outside. X static, which is from local page id dot a. So now this will show that there is some kind of does not exist, blah blah blah. Don't worry about it. When you build it, it will go away. Now everything is fine. Let us just see how it is. Let me rebuild the application and run it. Okay, there we go. Okay, press A, we got page A. Okay, press C, we got page C. So now what happens is, from the view we are able to pass the message back to the view model, and view model then assigns and calls the notify property chain. All we now need to do is we can do one thing. We can go ahead here and create a new text box. Let's say text block, and grid is in row 1, and let us bind it to page ID, and notify on source updated change is equal to true. Now let's try to see what happens here. This text block is present in here. This block is present here, and I will assign a font size of 35. Let's see. Let's remove the okay, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. So it's working. The next step is the view is now also receiving it. Now based upon the information that is received in the view, we need to change our view based upon the pages what we have here. So first let us bring all these pages inside. If you have like very simple numbers, you can directly call them. What I will do, XML namespace, and pages is pages. So simple navigation dot pages. Bring them all with a name inside your resource dictionary. Pages, page A, and give it a key and say it as page A. Now this becomes a static resource inside your application. Now we got all our 4 pages, and finally what remains is, let me comment it out, you need a content control. Now content control, let's assign a style, content control dot style. Now like I am saying that style of the content control is a new style. So it's the same concept here. You see, button has a property called style, content control has a property called style. Instead of directly giving a style here, I am giving the style within this block itself. And the style again, if I go here, style again will have a target type. So the same concept here, style has a target type of content control. Now set a property content template. Where is this content template? Now there is one more problem here. You cannot directly assign the pages. Like what we need is, we need to put this inside a data template, and okay, so pages is a user control, but when you assign the content template, it will only understand a kind of a template. If I press F12 and see, this is a content template. Where is my template? Content template will accept only a data template. So that's the reason why we cannot directly assign the value there. In case now if I assign the value as static resource page A, now page A is understood. Content control should be present in grid.row 1, so it goes to the first row. Now instead of page A, if I put page B is working, page C is working, page D is working. But I don't need to change them manually. What I need is, I need to change them based upon a trigger. So inside this style, before we set anything, style.triggers, and now this is kind of like a data trigger. It's not a property trigger. Property trigger is like mouse over, clicking, those kind of property triggers. We need a data trigger, and data trigger has a binding. Where we are going to bind? We are going to bind to this page ID. Now bind to the page ID. I'm sorry, binding should be a binding. Bind to page ID, notify on source updated is true, update source property changed, the usuals, and value. Now here's what we are going to do. Value, let us take this ecstatic again. If my value is page A, then setter property. If my value is page A, then I need page A. Content template value is page A, then I need page A. If my value is page B, then I need page B. Let's try only page A and B and see whether it works. If there are any issues, we'll fix them right away. Page B, page A. So C and D will not work because we have not assigned them yet. Now that we know it works, all we need to do is just assign. This is a core concept behind it. Based upon some value, it does a trigger and it changes the data. Now if I go here and let's do a quick navigation. So there we go, page B, page C, page D, and now our simple page navigation works. I will quickly go through what we did. We created a view and we created some pages, different pages, and pages has no idea about the view model, pages has no idea about the parent view. And then we created a view model, and the view model itself we used community toolkit MVVM, and then we added the observable object. The main reason is we need two interfaces. One is notify property changed, another is I command. I command is the way how view will send a message back to the view model, and notify property change is the way how view model will send information back to the view. It is a rotating process, and whenever the view sends a message to the view model to change the page, we are calling in relay command, and we are calling this page method, and based upon the information from the view we are changing the property here, and this property in turn is calling the iNotify property changed, which in turn again calls the view and say I am updated, like view model is updated with some value. So from the view we are sending the command to change something in view model, and when it returns the message back we are again updating the view ourselves. So now to send the message we are using I command with the command parameter, and we are using enum. That's why we are having ecstatic. In case you are not using enum, you are directly using string or number, you will directly enter the value here, and once we receive the message from there we are associating it with a data trigger because it's a data which is associated with the main view model, and based on that we are changing our content template of the content controller. And now how we associated the view model with view, we used a simple process. We went to the code behind of the view and directly said the data context is the main view. So the whole circle is completed. Let me add one more property of string called test. This is just for you to understand what's happening, and test, I will say test is hello there, and that's it. Now there is a property called test which is present in the main view model, and we need this to be present inside our child control which we are displaying. Here I will add a small text box, not a block, just a small text box. So I will add another text block here. The usuals and the defaults. Now let's see, it will not work. Usually we expect it to work, but it will not work. You see the page C, we still did not receive our message there. Now if you think you can achieve this by following the same principle as the main view model, like this, data context is equal to new main VM. Now you end up with another problem, which is hello there, but the data from the parent is not shared with the child, because the moment you add a new view model to your child control, the link is gone. Even though there is a property called test assigned, it is an isolated one, not coming from the same tree as the parent. So you should not do this. Now this is a special case only when you are using the content control, not with anything else, only with content control. This is a special case. You need to bind your content. So anyhow you already said this is your content using the style, but only you have defined the template of the content control, but the data context you still need to bind. So you need to call content is equal to binding. Only when you bind your content, the data is also shared. Let's see. Okay, now we have hello there. You know what? Okay, it's not working. The reason is this is again one more WPF trick. Whenever you are inside a text block, unless you bind it as two-way binding here, bind it whenever update notify and target updated is true, notify on source updated is true, update stores is property change. Whenever you do something in your text block, only when you lose the focus, then the property will be changes will be propagated. That's why it was not working before. Now let's see. Now it will work fine, because what I did, even before leaving the focus of the text box, I am saying that whenever the target is updated also notify. So which is the target? This is my target. Text block is the target, and source is the binding test. So what we did before was, whenever the test is updated, like source is updated, notify. But in the text, what we need to say is, whenever the target is updated also notify. So what I did, from the button I am directly saying, whenever the target is updated, notify the other places. So that's the reason why whenever the target here is updated, it is notifying. If it is not present, what will happen now? If it is not present, it will still work, but only when you lose the focus. I will just show this now. When this notify on source is not present, it is still working and the property is still there, but only when you lose the focus, it will be updated. Now when I press this C button, the focus is lost from the text block and then it is updated, but we don't need that, right? Like if I remove everything and say 1 2 3 4 5, only when I move out it is updated, but I don't need that. I need it to be instant. So I will say, whenever the target is updated also notify immediately. So it's a two-way binding. Yeah, let's go here 1 2 3. Okay, so now the page navigation works, and we also know how to take the data context from the parent to the child, and that's it. I hope this video makes some sense and you enjoy this. Thank you.